Kia whānau, Dr. Fee here. As promised, I'm going to give you a short video on how to do a proposal. I'm not going to sit and type up a whole proposal, but I'll go through the planning and you'll see where it fits. As you know, you've got 3 initiatives that you can choose from if you want to be able to align all your assessments together, which is a nice quick way of doing things. Okay, so what you need to do is to come to Evaluating Youth Development Practice, come down to your assessments here, and as always, be patient, and then come down to your assessments. Now here you can actually get your assessment complete with evidence guide, so that will give you a PDF of everything and the evidence guide, what I'm going to be looking for. You can also see it all down here as well. So if I want to know what I'm looking for, if you want to know quickly what I'm looking for, this is where it is. So I'm going to click on that template. I will open it. And I've decided that the initiative I will do is Making Waves. I might, which is that one-stop shop, the one that we didn't see in the block course. First thing I want you to do is to fill in the cover sheet. I don't have a student ID, proposal for 6205, and so on. Signature here, it's my own work, and WelTec can hold on to a copy so no one can steal my work in the future and claim it as their own. Better put my full name in. 14th of August. Okay. This bit here, you can delete that. This is telling you I don't want bullet points. Making waves. Remembering what we talked about, that the title was really important. So I've got that wrong already because that might actually be something exciting I would like to call it at the end. So what I'm just going to do is call it an evaluation of a one-stop shop. Fiona Beals, and I'll say my placement organisation is Wainoia Mata Medical Centre. This place doesn't exist, but it gives you an idea. Like Wainoia Mata Medical Centre would be a place that's actually interested in a one-stop shop evaluation. So here I've got to provide a quick overview of the proposal. So what I'm going to do is say Wainoia Mata Health Centre provides one-stop services for the whole of Wainui. After all, why not? The centre is interested in what works when working with young women. As such, this evaluation will look at the Making Waves program that's happening in New Plymouth. So what I've done there has given you a quick, distinct, actually 2 sentences. I work at Wainoia Mata Health Centre. It wants to know how to work well with young women. It may be able to get that answer from another initiative. We'll focus on waves. The rationale for it, such an evaluation may help us improve our services offered and the way that we deliver them. I'm also going to say it might help in identifying what we might need to evaluate in the future. Okay, I probably put a little bit more detail in there, but that's basically it. That's my introduction. Literature review. This is going to be the trickiest part for you. You need to be able to find 3 to 4 bits of literature that are actually going to help your evaluation at the end. These bits of literature will stay with you always. So what I have done is I've gone through my own library and I've picked up some literature. I'll show you what they are. Here's my reference list. I make this up beforehand, and then all I need to do is cut and paste that at the end. It also helps me on a few things of getting things right. Like, remember, with journals, you have to provide the volume and the issue. Why is that? Well, in a year, a journal might have 2 or more volumes. It might have 2 or more big hardbound collections of many issues. And in a year, a journal might be published around 6 to 12 times. This one's been published at least 6 at this point. If you don't put that information, I can't find that article. So volume and issue is really, really, really important. Just look here, I don't need that information, and I can see that I'm missing a whole pile of stuff. So I tend to do this XXX, and then I can do a quick search and find that stuff later on. Here I've got a report. I've got the number of pages. This tends to be wanted in most APA libraries, but it's not something that we require here at WelTec. This is a report on young people out of mainstream systems in counties Manukau. I've looked for literature that is around health services and young people's health and experiences with health. So you'll see I've got 4 sources there, and they're going to be the ones that I include in the literature review. Let's have a look at those sources together. The first one I've got is on my screen here, opening up, is a reading from Duncan. This reading is looking at, I think this is a county. As usual, we have a slowness. Okay, yeah, this one here is, I just found it actually, and it is hyper. This has really got me amped, this reading. It's absolutely brilliant. This is the sort of thing that youth workers go, wow, this is gold, even though it's in a journal. So here, if you look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 authors. You don't need to include all 7 authors the first time in APA 6th edition. You need to include the first 4 authors: Duncan, Garcia, Francosi, and Carey. And then you put an ETAL, so that means and others in Latin. Here we have the volume number, and here we have the year, and we have the page numbers. Excelsior journals are often problematic to find the issue number, so I won't tell you off if you've got an Excelsior journal and you haven't got the issue number. I have them because I get, Excelsior sends me emails every month. I've read the abstract and I've got an idea of this article. This is a gem. What this article is doing is looking at the primary care services that young people will go to. So these are the one-stop shops, and what they are doing to help young people. And what the authors have found, that often, and I love the sentence here, but often health services focus on identifying risk factors. So stuff like the HEADS assessment is very, very key. They allow you to find out, hey, where are these problematic areas we need to work on? And this article is actually saying, hey guys, if you're working in primary health, if you're in a one-stop shop, you need to be working beyond just HEADS. And you need to be actually using a whole pile of other assessments. So they talk about the Circle of Courage, basics of parenting. These are all assessments you can do. Most of you know Circle of Courage. The 5 C's, you should all know those. And if you've been with Jane, you should know that there are 6 now. Bright Futures is another one. APA, that comes from the American Psychological Association. Yeah, you've got it. Where you get your referencing style from. And I'm like, wow, here's an article telling me how I can actually use these and how useful they are. And then it goes even further. Now I know this is this is going to be, you're not going to see this all here, but what they've done here is they're starting to break apart heads, and they're starting to say, hey, how can we do a positive youth development assessment with heads? And so it ends up being really, really useful. So I'm like, hey, this article has really got me thinking, if I want to look at experiences in a health centre, and what I want to do with the Waves one is look at and focus on young women. So if I want to look at the experiences of young women going through one-stop shops, maybe I should actually talk to them about the types of assessments that are used. And what this article says, that if you use strengths-based assessments, you're encouraging young people to make decisions for themselves. So what I would be wanting to ask when I'm doing my interview schedules, my frameworks for interviews, are questions like, what are your experiences of when you get asked lots of questions, or you have to do form filling, or what are your experiences of assessment? I wouldn't use that term because young people wouldn't know that, but what are your experiences of the types of questions we ask you here? Do you find that they're empowering? Do you find that you've made choices for yourself? So that's one article. The next article is from South Auckland. It's looking, oh no, it's not. It's another experiences one. So I just assumed that they were what they are. So I found another journal. This one is where I'm missing all that information. So you see it's got volume and number 2013. The reason why I'm missing all this information is I've got an early release of this article. This company sends me these articles really, really quickly, so I slam them into my library. So what I'll end up doing is over here, we've got my XXXX 2013 in publication. So now I can get rid of that. Aha, see? And later on this year, this will come out officially. So this is looking at the experiences, like it says, of young people, and it's looking at these key things here. Power differentials, do they feel like they're empowered or not? How are their parents involved? Are the services attuned? Are they aligned to their needs? And are they being able to develop self-expression? That self-expression, choice again. Developably attuned to the services means that there's a focus on assessment. So, is this all working? And so what I'll end up doing is, and it's got key practitioner messages, again, I'll select that one because I know that that's going to give me some information on the services. Eckersley, I think it's Richard Eckersley. He's an Australian writer. He's one of the world leaders in resilience research. He's got this article here from 2011, A New Narrative of Young People's Health and Wellbeing. And so what he's trying to look at here is, what he actually does is get, I think it's 5 young people to tell their stories about health and wellbeing in their life. And he uses those stories and aligns them to stories in past years, and he sees that what's actually happening is young people are experiencing more situations that mean that they're in need of services like one-stop shops. So I'm using this, pick this for a couple of reasons. One, it justifies the need of one-stop shops. The other reason is that it gives me an idea about how to ask questions. So, and I should say on the side, a third one, if I see work from Richard Eckersley and it's to do with health, I'm going to choose it. I'm going to want to look at it. He is so good. So he's a really good guy to Google. The final one I've got is a New Zealand-based one. So I'm trying to get a diversity of stuff. And again, this time I'm looking at health services available and young people's experiences of health services, but also young people's experiences of health. So who counts? Young people, outer systems, and counties, Manukau. Okay, so this was a report that was looking at what do young people need, and it went out and talked to young people. So I'm quite into this. I think it could really help in designing my evaluation for Waves, but it's also going to help me in my work in Wainui. And yeah, so these are the sort of things that you're looking for in your literature. You're looking for things that are going to help your evaluation, going to help the types of questions you ask. You don't need any more than 4, and you're all into the specialist practice course. You can all log into that, and you can look at the annotated bibliography. Now, hopefully everyone's put their references up there properly, so what you can do is look there. Now, you cannot cut and paste a reference that is not your own, those annotations that are not your own. There's no, that's complete plagiarism. But what you can do is use that reference to find a source. Okay, so you might find that someone has put up an Eckersley journal article, and you'll be able to contact me and see if I can get you that journal article from the person who submitted it. So, those are my sources. The next thing I do for my literature review is write the literature review. So, what I've got here is I've taken that first one, Duncan. Now there's several ways that you can do literature reviews, and if those of you doing specialist practice, I will do a little video on some of them and show you myself doing a literature review. When you're doing a proposal, you don't need to worry about going into depth into literature review styles. So what we're going to do here is a very, very quick one. I just pray that it's it, yeah. So this is what I'm going to do for each one. I'm going to write an annotation for each one. So here we are, Duncan, Garcia, Frankowski, Carey, ETAL. Remember, after 4 you can use ETAL. I just noticed I'm missing an apostrophe S because the article belongs to them. Duncan, Garcia, Frankowski, Carey, ETAL's article focuses on medical and psychological programs and interventions. Using evidence from other literature and studies, they argue that health-based programs tend to focus heavily on risk assessments. Young people are often seen in these settings as potential victims of their environment. Now you'll notice that's a quote from that favourite sentence of mine. Just a very short one, and I don't have to repeat the whole reference because I started the paragraph in the reference. This is sexy referencing. You won't see lots of years, you won't see lots of... I don't even have to put that one in there. Lots of page numbers. If your paragraph starts with one author and you stay on that author, you don't need to dominate that paragraph with referencing. It's very easy to read, and it doesn't show lots of paragraphs. Duncan and colleagues argue that successful programs and interventions in health need to take a strengths-based approach and take into account the young person's developmental assets and social supports. They don't actually say the word developmental assets, but they talk about, they need to take into account, and they start listing all these things, and I'm like, they're developmental assets. So I've condensed it down by using a term I know. So taking into account developmental assets and social supports. Using a variety of strengths-based, I think I spelt that one wrong, models and traditional medical models, they argue, so that's what I've done there is I've condensed, I haven't listed. I'm trying to keep, a literature review has to provide summaries. So I'm not going to go, it uses communities that care, I'm just going to go, uses a variety of strengths-based approaches and traditional, so that's my push onto APA model, as well as the heads. Models, they argue that a focus on strengths leads to young people making healthy choices for themselves and others. Their work shows the need for one-stop shop, so I'm linking it back into what I'm evaluating, such as ways to incorporate this combination of assessments, but I haven't put that there, and an alignment to this combination to explore the experiences of young people when using assessment, with the aim to see whether assessment models are engaging young people in positive choices. Voila! Come back to my proposal. I'm going to stick that in, my first piece. And then we'll look at the next one, which is, I think it was, just to remember, I think it's Harper. So what I'm trying to do now is make my paragraphs flow. So I know that Harper is also looking at experiences of young people in a mental health service. So at this point I will try to have that flow in my paragraphs. Harper, comma, I'm doing Control Alt Tab here to jump between the two. Harper, Dixon and Bramwell. Harper, Dixon. I tend to use ampersands here for some reason. It's up to you whether you do or not. 2013. Also explore the health model to development. However, so now I'm saying what makes their research slightly different. Unlike Duncan, see how there's a real link coming in here, and colleagues. So now that I've got to a point of, I've given those Duncan, Garcia, Francesco, Carey, I've given the full citation as much as I need to the first time. Now from this point on I can say Duncan and colleagues. 2007, unlike Duncan and colleagues 2007, Harper and colleagues Harper and colleagues 2013. This is because I've jumped between two references. From this point on I won't have to focus on the experiences. They found. So what we've done now is I've given a statement sentence. Harper also explore the health model to development. Now I'm giving it an explanation. Unlike Duncan and colleagues, Harper and colleagues focus on the experiences. They found, so this is the example part. They found that young people, this further highlights the need to explore experiences. Okay. So then the next paragraph, now I'm only just taking you into the writing of it, in contrast to Harper and colleagues and Duncan and colleagues. So I'm saying this is, look, prepare yourself for something different. I'll just come over to my referencing bit, which I've got here. Fleming 2006. Oh, I'm going to finish with New Zealand because I think it will look sexy. Okay, because Eckersley's the expert, and then Fleming is taking us to New Zealand. Fleming, I think it's 2011. Ask young people about their own health needs. That is terrible referencing. Because if I took that Eckersley bit out, it just doesn't make sense. So Eckersley asked young people about their own health needs. He found these findings seem to support the need for, what do you call it, identified, when you've got health services that are just for young people, for separate and accessible health services for young people. Final one, Fleming 2006, working from an Aotearoa NZ context. Fleming's findings. I'm saying this because I'm not saying that Fleming endorses Eckersley, but that Fleming's findings echo that of Eckersley. Fleming looked at the experiences of these findings show us the need to talk to youth and learn from youth. Okay, that is a nice, I haven't, remember all these paragraphs here me just showing you the shape of the paragraph. You would fill out bits of them. You would actually expand it so you've got a really good sex paragraph, a really good statement, explanation, example. You'll see that I haven't got lots of quotes, but I've got references going throughout. Very good literature review here. Okay, so what has the research found today? I think I've got that. I've highlighted the key aspects. I could also highlight the gaps. Like what I could have said here at Duncan is that they did not look at experiences of young people, but Harper did. Where a real gap comes through is in our discussion that we had in the Wellington block. For those of you looking at doing something like Scared Straight, one of the students down there suggested that what you could actually do with the literature review is look at research on mentoring and say, hey, a gap in this is actually maybe we need to look at how mentoring looks within a Scared Straight scenario, or whether a Scared Straight scenario will give us something for mentoring. Other gaps could be a limitation of Fleming's work was that they did not look at experiences of young people in school. So you'll find that Fleming actually tends to focus on just a single group of young people, so it's more a case study. So I could say that Fleming's work is restricted to that area. But what you're looking for is really a literature review that leads into saying to your agency, to Waves, hey, this evaluation is worthwhile, and you want it to somehow link to what you want to ask in your methodology. So here we get to the methodology. This evaluation will focus on the experiences of girls in making in Waves, New Plymouth. By focusing on their experiences, we are taking one group of young people. We are able to take all of this. I'm writing in my head as I'm doing things, so you have to forgive me. You have to take one group of young people and explore in depth. So I'm using language that's going to hint straight away to me as a reader. Remember, in depth, really detailed stories, really, what do we call it, thick descriptions. Explore in depth the experiences of this group so that we can, in the future, better meet their needs. So, key question: what are the experiences of young women in Waves? I might have some sub-questions. I'm just going to have two sub-questions. What are their experiences of assessment? Yeah. How is Waves enabling them to address their own health needs? Okay, now you'll see that those come directly from my literature. They're nice questions that say to people, hey, I know what I'm looking at. I know I can actually triangulate it. I can see whether it is like other literature. So we've got our key questions there. One big question, two sub-questions. My methods. So this research will involve a qualitative approach, predominantly informed from the feminist paradigm. Now, you can put this in because you know it, but actually, if you want to keep it nice and short, you don't need that bit in. You're not writing a PhD, remember, you're just writing a proposal for a youth development agency. You know yourself, you all struggle to come to those terms, you know them all now, but don't overwhelm other people with the knowledge that you know. Use the terms you have to use to be true to your research, but speak the language of people around you. Okay, so this research will involve a qualitative approach which will enable us to gather rich stories. There you go. So I'm now defining what that qualitative approach is going to do. My methodology is now stated. In order to gather these stories, 3 methods will be used. I'm going to use, I'm looking at my questions, remember. What are the experiences of access? How is WAVES enabling to address their own health needs? What are the experiences of young women in WAVES? So I definitely know that I'm going to have interviews. I could use a questionnaire, but I don't know if that's going to give me the deep stuff. I'm tempted to, because then I can see the health needs side of things. I'm even thinking this, I'm thinking this as I'm asking, like, observation I tend to always say to do, but I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, observation work. Actually, I think observation might work better than questionnaires if I can meet the ethical requirements, because we're looking at a health service, and often even doctor's appointments are done in confidence. Perhaps I will see if I can look at case files though. So, because remember what's happening in these health systems and health services is that young people come in with case files. If I've got permission from those young people to see some of those case files, then that would enable me to get a lot of information around their own health needs. And it could even, sometimes, particularly if in a one-stop situation, notes will be taken holistically. So doctors may take notes about how the young person reacts to an assessment. So case files are going to do it, and a focus group. And I may look at using digital story for that. Because it's a technique that I know I can use within a research context. So now that I've got those listed there, I have to make it, unfortunately, as academic looking as possible. So I should now put those into a sentence. And focus groups. Okay, now we just need to, we've got a couple of statement sentences there, but a person will see that and they'll know exactly what's happening. So now we need to give a little bit of an explanation to this. So what we come into here, come down to our main page. And we go down to understanding the methods. Now you're not required to read all of these, but it's highly recommended that you read the ones that you're using. Okay, there's one there. This is what we were talking about the difference between research ethics and professional ethics. Okay, so I've said I'm going to use focus groups, so I'm wanting to download that one. I said I'm going to be using observation, so I want to download that one. And I'm going to be using questions. So these ones here, I need to. They're all from the same book, which is really cool. That's just one reference, Byman, and I can cut and paste that one, remember. So what I'll now go down to is giving a bit of a justification for each method. So we'll come into here and then we'll say something like, according to Byman, 2008, interviews should enable participants to share a deeper, can't keep repeating in depth, a deeper reflection on their experiences. However, Byman notes that this needs to be semi-structured. So now you should note that this might not be the case. So I'm just expanding a little bit on why I'm using interviews by using my reading of Byman. I'll do the same when it comes to the focus groups. And when it comes to case files, you'll see they're not there, but what you can actually say that what you'll pick up to align and triangulate. Remember that term triangulate means 3 bits of data, 3 different types of data that they all tell the same story. So what you're hoping is that the case files will be able to triangulate and be able to show that the story you're telling is valid. Okay, so it's valid within itself. Remember the catalytic validity, it's valid to those participants. So we just go through and do that. You got tick, 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 all of those. And then at the end, I might say, while these methods will tell a deep story, the research itself is only focused on young girls and only a sample of these. We'll say 3. I'll change my number now to 8. We will be working with potentially 8 case studies. Okay, I've put that in there because I need to be able to identify to the people, they're going to say, well, how many young people are you going to talk to? Everyone? Well, you're not going to have time to talk to everyone. By saying potentially 8, I'm saying I'm going to be potentially interviewing 8, looking at the case files of 8 young girls and doing 2 focus groups. Okay, so I know that that's achievable. And only a sample of these. So the research may be limited to only these girls. And then I justify it again, what it will offer, however, some experiences which can be aligned to the literature in order to get a better understanding. Okay, there you go. That's my methodology, pre-done. The only thing that I have left in a form of sort of lines are the questions. Everything else is in paragraphs. Ethics, a final section. Remember, you need to talk to your placement agency about what they would expect if you were doing research there, and a good way of going about it is not to go, oh, we don't have a code of ethics, do we, for research. Some of you will already have that. A good way to start the conversation is to say something like, if I was to do an evaluation of one of our programs here, and note that, tell them that you're not, okay, but if I was to do that, so say I need to have a conversation with you about ethics, and if I was to do an evaluation of one of our programs here, what would you require me to do, especially if that report was going to be published? How would you require me to keep the young people safe? Would you be wanting me to make sure their names are held in confidence so that we don't release their names to the public? How would we protect them if the names were released? How do we get young people to consent to come in? So you're having that sort of conversation, just so that you're aware. It could be that you put down, something like currently we don't have a working research ethics code. However, we will, however, if this research was to proceed, we would do the following, okay? And then you could say something like, we would do the following, not include photos of the young people, use pseudonyms or names that don't identify with that young person. If you're in a situation where you've been told you have to do participatory research, so that young people are identified, then you would have to say stuff like, well, how are we going to make sure that the stories aren't going to come back to bite? Because that's where the harm comes in. Often when names are shown, like we talked about in class, particularly with that scared straight thing, once people know who those named people are, that story carries them for life. So we have to be really, really careful here on published stuff. It's a bit different. Conclusion. It is hoped that this evaluation will enable us at Wainuiomata Health Centre to provide better services for our young women. By learning from another centre that's working in success, we can only help but improve our practices here. Now we put our reference list in, including the bioman, and if you've made reference to anything else, you put that in as well. And in the appendices, you put down what you are going to, so for me, I look up here, if I'm going to be doing interviews, I need to be putting the list of questions I'm going to be asking. If I'm going to be doing questionnaires, I've got to be putting the list of questions I'm going to be asking. Okay, and you don't have to make a complete questionnaire up, but you need to be putting the list of questions that you're going to be asking. If I was to be doing observation, you need to be putting your observation schedule in and what you're looking for. Case study, case files, I should actually just list case files that will be explored, will be assessments, rather than I'm going to explore the counselling conversations. That's an ethics thing as well, okay? So by outlining all the methods and then actually showing us your questions, we can see whether your questions are going to meet with your ethics. So that's the proposal. It's not as hard as it looks, and you'd see, well, Fiona's given us lots of terms and lots of words, but they're the ones to help drive you. When you're writing the proposal, you're writing it again for managers, you're showing you have a really good understanding. As Rod says to you as well, whenever he writes his stuff, he'll put in the references because people want to find the stuff that you're using. So I hope this little vid's helped, and that's it for me.